you're a little bit too easy, too much, a little bit of a pushover. Um, it's not going to be, people can say whatever they want, and there will be no, um, steering people back to whatever the topic is or whatever the subject is, unless I kind of come to it from a different standpoint. So I forget the name of the leadership style that basically was like roll over me. I don't know. That wasn't the name of it, but it was something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So you just
hands off approach.
Yeah. Somebody say something, you say, okay, that's good,
Right.
And so I realized when you started reading the I took the little battery, and then you started reading it back to me, and I was laughing because I thought, yep, I've done that a lot. To avoid conflict and that kind of thing, which was also something that we talked about. And then we talked about, what do you do? How do you handle a conflict in a situation where you're talking about something as dynamic as the Bible? What do you say back to people? And how do you get how do you steer the conversation so that you still end up giving or presenting the message that is the message God sent you to give? And again, I have done that in many classrooms, and I always thought, well, that's not the same thing as teaching the Bible. So I won't do that over here, And I've made them separate. And so you kind of you helped me see that. No, it's actually, if God gave you a message and that's what you have come to present and share, you still, you go with that. You still go with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the leadership, that part of it was, interesting. That was kind of more of a challenge one for me. And I think one of my more positive ones was like, collaboration and getting information from others and that kind of thing, and using that information. So I did know that about myself. So it was good to kind of say, oh, well, good, at least I know how to do that.
Right. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all
right.
So how did that even help your daily routine? Because by that time you were already studying your Bible each week and like getting like meaty Bible studies and understanding your gifts, understanding your audience. So how did that change your routine as a whole? Now understanding yourself better and shedding some of those self-confidence and lack of worthiness things off of you as you're about to walk into what God is showing you.
I mean, how? Just I guess it's like the extent is so large that I don't even know if I can articulate it. But I know that in terms of changes, I mean, you can't go back and unsee, right? What you now know. You cannot go back now and say, oh, well, I don't know, if I'm good at this or that. It's kind of silly because I now know better. And so at work, at home with my children, with my friends, I shared a couple of instances with you where things that I would have let go, or conversations that I would have just not even spoken up about, I just couldn't hold. I just said, no, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about this. So it really changed the dynamics with the children, at work with the colleagues, also at work with the students, and private, personal relationships, same thing. All of a sudden, it's like, it's okay to say it. It's not that, the confidence to do it and not, I don't have to feel bad about it afterwards. I wasn't rude. I just shared with you this. And I could never get there before. Before it was always like, if I did do it, I felt terrible about it afterwards. And I felt like I had to explain or, kind of push it back a little bit, smooth it over a little bit more. And so it definitely changed that. And in small ways too, like speaking up, even looking at myself, I'm going to just admit, even looking at myself on this camera, even that has changed, because I'm not like, what, that's what the camera, that's it, that's what's here. So let me just, and be okay with it, and that's okay, right? And I remember you saying one good point that I have remembered is, we're talking about the Bible study or whatever, like when we set a schedule for the day and we don't get everything done. And oh man, the way I would beat myself up about not being, like we used to say, 100%. And then, you were saying, well, 40 is better than a 0. So go on and do 40 and let that be what it is for the day. And then tomorrow you'll try to get up to 60 or whatever. And that seems like a simple concept, but for me, I guess with the perfectionism and the lack of self-worth, I couldn't shake that. For me, it was, I said I would do all these things and I didn't get to do them. So what's wrong with you? I'm in my head. And so it changed that, because I have heard myself say it to other people now. Like, you know what? 40 is better than 0. I'll take it, and that's mercy for me, but that's also mercy for the other person.
Right.
To say, I'm not worried about that. You didn't finish. Okay, fine.
Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. And it's less stress. Physically, I'm talking about just, physiologically, it's less stress. It's on the body and everything. So those kinds of changes, getting more done. It's funny because I don't think that having started school before, I started school in January, and then you and I started in March, I think. I'm not sure I would have been able to do my schoolwork if I hadn't changed like my schedule, because I had so much to do. And I'm still involved in church ministries, and I still have children and work, and I'm not sure I would have gotten it all done. So that's a major change for me.